Alright, let's get into it. My 10 least favorite games I beat this year. For some context, I have never been one to beat games. I've never been that good at it, but last year in 2023, I started tracking all the games I played, and I beat 8 games that year. In 2024, my goal was to double it, and I quadrupled it. I beat 33 games, and I'm going to be going over the 10 worst ones in this video. Just a disclaimer, I'm pretty good about knowing what I like, especially if I beat a game, I probably don't dislike it. That being said, when we get further into the list, there are some games I genuinely do not like at all that I beat, but especially for the first 5, I'd say I like these games. They didn't blow me away. They're probably 7 to 6 out of 10 games, but I don't hate them. I enjoyed playing them. My 10th least favorite game that I played this year is Kirbys Dreamland 2. Like I said, I don't hate these games. I like Kirbys Dreamland 2. It's fun. I think it's a little clunky at times, and they were still trying to figure out how the companions should work. They're pretty unbalanced, and a few of them are kind of useless. It's also very limited in the copy abilities you can get, this being a Game Boy game. That makes sense. The kind of clunkiness also makes sense. This is a huge step up from, say, Kirbys Dreamland 1, which, didn't have any copy abilities and didn't have much going on. This feels like a much more fleshed out and full Kirby game. Not perfect, obviously. I think some of the levels can be kind of frustrating, and the way this game looks isn't super exciting. I mean, it's a Game Boy game, so it can only do so much, but it's not Kirby's most inspired art style or look, and yeah, they just hadn't fully figured out how the animal companions should work. They got it a lot better in Kirbys Dreamland 3, which, if you want a full review of that game, join our Patreon, because I did a full review of it there. Andy and I both do reviews of games on our Patreon, and yeah, we're really trying to build that out. And make sure to like and subscribe. After that little plug, let's get into number 9. Which is another Kirby game. I like Kirby, I promise. It's just I play a lot of Kirby games, and some of them are average. And this is another average one, Kirbys Adventure. Although I do really like it, especially for an NES game. I think it holds up great, especially due to the save states. The slowdown in this game is probably its biggest issue, which does kind of make gameplay chug sometimes. Again, compared to Kirbys Dreamland, this feels much more like a full Kirby game. You got copy abilities, everything's here that's needed. As always, there's just very fun worlds to explore, and this game it feels good to play, besides the slowdown, which does slow down the game. Everything's here that you'd want from Kirby. There's no gimmicks. This is a pretty straightforward Kirby game, and really the first straightforward Kirby game. I'd say they did it better later, especially with games like Kirby's Return to Dreamland or Nightmare in Dreamland. I definitely would choose those over this game to play, but if I want to play a platformer on the NES, this is one of my favorites. Just for its historical value alone, if you're a Kirby fan, I'd say it's worth at least checking out. Coming in at number 8 is Baku Animal, which is another game I definitely do like. It only scores this low because it is kind of just a puzzle game, and there's not much else to it. That being said, it is helped greatly by being on the Sega Saturn and it having this super chunky art style that I just love. This world is so weird. The animal heads that you use to clear rows of food are so beautifully ugly. It's great. I've described this game as kind of like Pack Attack. Each animal head is like a key to clear the food that they eat. So the dog eats the bone, the monkey eats the bananas, the rabbit eats the carrots. You get it. You want to drop the heads onto the food, and you want to create good combos so that the heads clear the food well. I'd say where this game loses to something like Puzzle League or Pack Attack that kind of has a similar thing going on is the ratio. There are just too many types of animals, so you end up with a lot of junk animal heads that don't really lead to clearing anything. I did beat this game, and by beat I just mean I played through its story mode where you just kind of fight person after person. There's some weird cutscenes where they're talking about stuff. This game's in Japanese. There are English versions of it, but I played it on my Japanese Saturn because it's $10 there, so I have no idea what they're talking about, but I like seeing their chunky little animations. Super fun little puzzle game on the Sega Saturn that you should check out. Coming in at number 7 on this worst games list is another game I like. Super Birdie Rush on the SNES. Well, Super Famicom, I should say. I played it on the SNES, but yeah, Super Famicom game. I picked it up because it was $7 and I liked the cover. It was just a chunky little golfing guy. Unfortunately, the game does not really look like that. You don't really see your model at all. When you do, you're just kind of a regular dude and you're not super chibi and cute, which is what I was hoping for, and I'm sad. I thought this was maybe going to be a pseudo 3D, almost like Stunt Race FX, but with golf type game, and if it was that, it might be my favorite game of all time, but it is just a more traditional take on 16-bit golfing. It is solid. There is only one course in this game, I'm pretty sure, unless there's more. Again, it's in Japanese, so it's hard for me to navigate all the menus and figure out what's going on. The course that you play through is fun, and I've found myself returning to of this game a weird amount, just because it is something super chill and straightforward to turn on, and you can just kind of shut your mind off and play some golf. Its display isn't perfect. Like, the overview map only shows the direction you're pointing. It doesn't actually like estimate how far the ball will go for you like truly great golf games would, and it loses points for that because it does kind of make it hard to judge your shots as well. But I didn't have any trouble like getting through these courses, at least at par generally, you know, a bogey here or there. Yeah, it's just pretty solid, if unremarkable, arcade golf on the SNES. I wouldn't really recommend it over any other golfing game. There are definitely better ones to play, but again, it's like $5, so if you see it, if you want a random golf game, pick it up. Coming in number 6, and this is where we start getting into the games I have a little more legitimate criticisms of, although admittedly I do still like this game. It is Kirby and the Rainbow Curse on the Wii U. Probably my least favorite Kirby game, maybe Dreamland 1. I like less, just because there's not much going on it. The fact that I like this game at all is pretty remarkable, given that, in essence, it is a always auto-scrolling platformer with a very clunky way of moving around. The claymation art style is so fun. It's probably one of my favorite looking Kirby games, maybe only behind like Dreamland 3 and 64. I really love how this game looks. I just love like these artsy kind of takes on like game design where you make them look like a real life material, and claymation being claymation is super cool. The core gameplay mechanic of this game is you use the Wii U gamepad of this game to like draw lines of this game that Kirby will roll on, because Kirby's just a ball of this game. There's no copy abilities of this game, you're just using the lines. And there are some fun mechanics and gimmicks of this game at different points of this game. There's a submarine Kirby and like a tank Kirby that are pretty fun to play as, that forego the like drawing lines thing, but still have you using the gamepad in cool ways to move Kirby around. It's very much like a Wii U tech demo type game. But then there are also some levels that drive me nuts, like the gondola levels. I think that's what they're called, like those things that go on mountains, where you're kind of just like moving Kirby around and having him like slide down lines. Those levels are pretty frustrating and not very fun. There's a couple different experiments in this game that don't work that well, and then just the general normal movement is also pretty annoying at times, especially given that the game's auto-scrolling, so you don't really have time to explore, and you kind of just need to get Kirby to the side of the screen as quickly as possible and hope that there isn't some random like hazard that hits you, which sometimes happens, and it's hard to like maneuver yourself out of spaces. So yeah, it's a remarkable that I like this game at all, given how clunky at times the main gimmick can be of this game. It is a very nice looking game, and there are some fun things here. It's just there are too many flaws for me to say I really like this game. Coming in at number 5, Sonic Chaos. This joins the rank of Sonic Superstar of being one of the only 2 Sonic games I've ever beaten, so that's something. I mean, this game is like 30 minutes long, so that's why I beat it. I will say I do like its slower take on Sonic's 2D platforming, which is a dumb thing to say because it's Sonic and the whole thing is fast, but can we all admit, like, the whole going fast thing in 2D Sonic has never really worked. You've always kind of had to slow down because of death pits, which this game absolutely has. Also, I'm assuming just because of the Game Gear's hardware limitations, if you drop rings, you can only drop up to like, it's either 3 or 5 at a time. So if you have 40 rings and you get hit once, even if you pick up all your rings, you're down to 5 rings, which it makes it pretty hard. But I wouldn't say this game overall is hard. It's definitely like an easier Sonic game, I would say, because you have to take it slower and they are more limited because of the Game Gear's small screen. This is the first game that I beat on my Game Gear, which makes it special for that reason. It's not horrible, but you know, it's not the greatest. It's a Sonic game on the Game Gear. What do you expect from it? I'd say I really do like a few levels in this game, but Sonic games always have some levels that just annoy me, and this game has more levels that annoy me than don't. Coming in at number 4 is Aladdin for the Genesis. I played it for both the SNES and the Genesis. I'm probably going to do a review of the SNES Aladdin in some form, or maybe a video comparing the two, but the Genesis one lands way down here, which might be surprising to some of you because I think historically it's been the more favored one, and I will say it wins out in one category, which is the music, but genuinely, like, just look up like Sega Genesis Prince Ali song. You get what you need from this game. It's so frustrating. I don't know. The controls are weird and clunky. There's definitely input delay with how Aladdin jumps, and I did beat this game on the Disney collection on Switch, so, you know, you could say it's because of that, but I have it on the Genesis, and I've played it on the Genesis, and if anything, input delay feels worse. I think it is just like Aladdin's animation, which his animations do look really nice in this game. All the Disney games from this era look really nice, and especially this one. I think that gets in the way of the gameplay feeling good. Also, this game heavily relies on sword combat, and it kind of, It's that. You're just doing that. And you're hoping that you hit the enemy more than they hit you and you don't die. Very clunky, very bad feeling. I really like the SNES's version of just hopping on dudes' heads and then you spring off of them and then you spring onto a stick sticking out of the wall and then you do a flip and then you spring onto a stick and then you spring off of them and then you stick on dudes' heads. The SNES Aladdin is genuinely an amazing 16-bit platformer, and I even think it looks better at this point, honestly, than the Genesis's game. Yeah, the Genesis Aladdin, it just doesn't hold up. If you think it's better than the SNES version, I implore you to go back and actually play both, and then come back and see if you still hold that opinion, because going back to the Genesis Aladdin in modern day just does not feel good at all to me. It's clunky, it's weird, and there are also weird, like, level design choices where a thing will be in the background or it'll look like it's in the background, like a set of stairs, but you're actually supposed to go up those set of stairs and you just can't tell because it's a 2D game and that's how it works. Or there's like a wall in the foreground that's blocking you from seeing that you're supposed to jump up behind it onto a platform that's behind it. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to know how to do that. And so there were a few times in this game where I was just like actually lost in a level and not sure what to do, which is pretty rare in a 2D platformer because, you know, it's usually just go right. I tried getting a little too crafty with it. Also, a lot of the boss fights in this game are just so annoying. If I didn't have rewinds, I would not have ever beat this game. I guarantee you. And yeah, I do use rewinds. Whatever. It made this game beatable. So yeah, like the SNES Aladdin, I came away from it being like, I want to get good enough at this game where I can beat it on original hardware. I even bought it boxed just because I liked it so much. And the Genesis Aladdin, I was like, okay, the music's cool. that's it. I like hearing Prince Ali on the Genesis as sound chip, but I don't need anything else from this game besides that. Coming in at number 3, these 3 games, I'd say starting with Aladdin. I don't really like these games. Tony Hawk's Underground. I did a review of this where I gave it a 5.5. I might have even bump it down to a 4.5 and edit it, but if you want to see the whole review, go to our Patreon, it's up there. But what I will say is this game has not completely turned me off from the Tony Hawk series. I haven't played any of the other games, but I think my next destination is Pro Skater 3. I also don't own this game currently because I sold it, so I can't do gameplay footage. So enjoy gameplay footage from the Patrick Star game on PS5. I like the core gameplay in this game of doing tricks and how that feels and how that works. It is a little clunky and imprecise, and that's a reason why I don't like this game. There's a lot of like missions where it's you have to do a continuous trick on a bunch of different things and you can't stop tricking the whole time, and it has to be like one big combo. It's very hard to pull that off when the controls don't work all the time, and those missions, I'm not one to get frustrated at games or just get frustrated in general. I like to think I'm pretty chill. This game annoyed me so much, more than any other game I've ever played. I was like sitting there raging at an old PS2 game. It felt weird. I was really in 2005 for a second, which, you know, maybe, hey, props to this game for bringing me back to a different time. I also hate the missions where you have to like pick up a bunch of random stuff like t-shirts or like pizza. I don't even remember. You're just running around, and I say running because you have to get off the skateboard most of the time, which is like, what the hell? This is a skateboard game. Why am I running around? But yeah, that feels clunky. There are also driving missions which feel genuinely horrible. It feels like baby's first programming job. The cars barely work. This game is at its best when you're just doing a straightforward tournament. I genuinely did really like those parts. So I think that's why I'd like Pro Skater more. But while I'm giving this game props, also Eric Sparrow is one of the most hateable antagonists in any game. Truly, I don't like that guy. I don't mess around with him at all. What a piece of just genuinely a horrible person. Eric Sparrow, if you're watching this, stop. I don't want you watching my videos. I hate that guy so much. Coming in at number 2 is Aai Katana. This game is just a nothing game to me. With a few exceptions, I don't think shoot 'em ups are really my thing, especially like more modern bullet hell shoot 'em ups. They just don't do anything for me. I'm also not going to sit there and get super good at them. This game has infinite continues, so I just continued the whole time, which, you know, maybe is why I didn't get anything out of it. But I think in general, this gameplay style just doesn't really work for me. I will say I like the campy little like cutscenes that play. Again, also I sold this game, so there's probably more Patrick Star game on PS5 up on the screen right now, so enjoy that. But this is like one of those bullet hell shooter games where the important part to remember is that you only need to protect your little dot in the center, not like your whole sprite that you are. And yeah, you just kind of advance through this game. I don't have much to say about it because it left no impression on me besides haha funny anime cutscene. Yeah, I do know this game has fans. It's one of those cool like shmups that got put out on the 360 that, you know, really could have only existed in that era. And yeah, I know this game has its fans. I'm sure it's for a good reason. I just don't like shoot 'em ups, and this one didn't do anything special enough for me to remember it at all. So I don't have much to say about it. But yeah, Aai Katana, mid. And then lastly, my least favorite game of this year, by a long shot. This game pretty much encapsulates everything I hate about modern gaming, and that's Stray. I really wanted to like this game because I'm such a cat person. Cats are awesome and great, but they made a cat game and they made it really badly. It's just a walking sim with a weird, nothing generic story about climate change or something, or the future or the apocalypse. And it is genuinely a cool idea to like be a little cat in a big world and exploring and like interacting with characters and changing, you know, how things turn out for these characters through just being a cat and doing cat stuff. But one, there isn't enough cat stuff and it doesn't play a big enough role. Like you can scratch a post sometimes and that's awesome and that's my favorite part about this game, but it doesn't play into it. It's like always just an extra random little thing you're doing. And then also the gameplay shakes out to be you're going from computer-headed person to computer-headed person with no emotion, and they just look like the people from Skibidi Toilet. They're like, you know, get this robe so this person can be warm, and then they're like, oh, you need string for the robe, get it from them. And you just walk around this like whatever space. I don't know. I don't want to hate on like artists and animators, and like if you worked on this game, props to you, and I hope you got compensated, and I hope you had fun working on it, and I don't want to be mean because I make art and I get it. But I don't like how this game looks at all. It's just such a, I don't know, it looks like Gmod assets and then you put like a red light, like one of those like LED strips that people have in their rooms up, and that's just how everything looks in this game, and it's ugly. The platforming is not platforming because you just go, it's like, if this game is a platformer, then Persona 5 is a platformer. Like you just go up to a ledge and you press jump and then you jump. That's the entire gameplay of this game. It's walking from place to place, pressing A when you're supposed to, talking to a person about the generic story in this game. There's just nothing here for me. I know people do like this game. I don't get it. I just really don't. The story isn't interesting. The gameplay is horrible. I think we can all agree on that at the very least. They're really calling it gameplay is generous. And it's also gross. Like the main enemy in this game are like these little flesh blob bloodsucker whatevers, and I know they're supposed to be gross, but like why? I want this game to be about being a little cat and exploring. I don't want disgusting flesh-sucking beasts to jump on me and like drain my blood. That's not really what I'm looking for in my fun little cat game. So I hate that too. Just every choice this game made, I think, was to spite me and to laugh at me for wanting a cat game that's fun. If you guys know any better cat games, comment them down below. And also, if you made to this point in the video, thank you. It really does help if you watch through this whole thing. If you've stuck with me through all my bad takes and weird opinions, I appreciate it. I'm sure I've made a lot of people mad with some of these choices. But yeah, if you're still here, like and subscribe, join our Patreon, and let me know what your least favorite game of 2024 was.